why don't departments issue vests to their dogs? And this is one where you would think it would almost be just common sense. I mean, I look at those working dogs. I would almost call them officers, for lack of a better term, to delineate them between, an officer and a service dog. Both are equally. I don't want to put any value judgment on either side of it, but I think there is a distinction between dogs that help people after, and then dogs that are literally there doing the job with human beings. I would have thought that a ballistic vest would be standard issue.
No, man, none of them. Actually, I take that back. Boston does that. Well, I think they have a group. They have a big group of people that run a nonprofit up there that pay for all the dogs in that area. But we put dogs in vests up there in some of the adjoining cities. I don't understand it either. I think part of it is, Andy, that, do you remember when we went from iron sights to the optics?
Oh, yeah. You mean when we
remember that? And guys are like, fuck those optics. These iron sights have been working for centuries. They're reliable. And you're like, all right, you're whipping their ass in the shooting competition, Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Guys are like, oh, the vest makes my dog slow down. Not true. If you train in it, like you have to train in your body armor, and I had to train in mine. If you train in it, it doesn't do anything. In fact, it's so light. The last one that I got sent to me from the company, I took out and shot it and did a video with it because I didn't believe it would stop. And I shot it with a 9mm hollow point and a 9mm ball in it. There were no issues. It's super light. And they did a heat study. A lot of guys will say, oh, the dog will get hot. Doesn't affect them at all. In fact, if they're wearing it, it protects them from the direct sunlight. The way dogs get rid of heat through their mouth and a little bit through their feet.
Yeah.
They don't sweat like you and I do. I think that's part of it. It's partially like, I don't want to put that on my dog. It'll slow them down. They just don't know what they don't know. I went to a funeral recently of a dog that had gotten killed who we had given a vest to. And the officer didn't have the vest on because they didn't think that call was that big of a deal. And the dog ended up getting killed. And, I'm not going to bust anybody's chops. I can't make that person feel any worse than they already do. But
yeah.
I just don't want people to have to hold their dead dog feeling it get cold like I did on the way home from a mission. I don't want people to have to go through that stuff if you don't have to, and we're here. We provide it. Like, I actually have had to fight with dudes to give them this shit. And occasionally, like, I've had to give a guy's wife the vest, who she then gave it to her husband, who then put it on the dog because the chief of police didn't want him to accept the gift or something. I don't know. So there's a whole bunch of crazy shit that goes on in law enforcement, as you can imagine. And the dog stuff is just one of those things.
Do you guys do training as well, in addition to the equipment?
We do. So we really have, I guess you'd call it 4 campaigns: ballistic vest, medical. And the medical stuff, that's how we started. That's a pretty big deal, especially for the retired dogs, like guys from our unit that retire, and adopt one of the dogs they worked with. I mean, those dogs they're like us, man. They get the shit beat out of them while they're working. And then when they retire, they need a lot of help physically. And so they're going to the vet a lot. And, most families don't have $10K. They can just drop on an orthopedic surgery for a dog that got his ass pounded by like a couple of humans doing a job for us. So medical, ballistic vests. And then we have a kind of a catch-all. That's the HIT campaign. And that is booties, goggles, GPS trackers for the search and rescue dogs. Those guys range out, man. They're pretty amazing to watch. In fact, before I forget, I want to invite you in August 23rd, 24th. We're helping to fund a course in Ohio.
Okay.
For dogs. This is the craziest shit I have ever seen. It's an underwater remains dog. So when people drown out of their boat, whatever, they put these dogs in the front of this boat. And these dudes take you out and they're like, yeah, the body's right here. And dude, like,
is it because of the off-gassing? They're off-gassing and they can smell it, can't they? Jesus.
But like, think about the wind coming across a lake and how all that works. So the handler, like I talked about earlier with me and Spike, learning how he worked and how he figured things out. The handler and the dog learn how to, the wind's coming from here, the dog's, but so maybe we need to head this way a little bit more. Anyway, seriously, invitation's open. If nothing else, it'd be just cool just to see. And those dogs are awesome. It's so cool. So yeah, then we do the training classes. We just did one in Tampa, a medical course. There's a veterinarian. He's got a crew of 3 dudes, and they throw on this incredible medical course that starts with the technical stuff and then ends with scenarios. That's one format. They have a 3-day scenario-driven format. Of course, it's pretty intense. We figured out, Andy, that the best way to take care of these dogs is to take the humans that have the biggest impact on those dogs' lives and teach them skills to keep the dog alive and them as well, and to be efficient. So we do some very small tactics stuff. We have to be really careful about who we allow to do that stuff, because a lot of people say they can do things with their dog that they can't do. Just simple obedience things that need your dog to be able to go down the hall and you tell the dog to lay down, and it does. That kind of stuff. A lot of cops can't do that. But they want those dogs involved in some of the clearance stuff. And in that case, this is what we teach them. So we've only taught probably a handful of those folks. What else do we teach? Decoy. The decoy, the dog that catches the dog or the guy who catches the dog when the dog bites can hurt the dog. Also can teach the dog a lot if they can understand how to read the dog, help it with its confidence, etc. So we teach that as well. So medical equipment to include ballistic vests. And then occasionally when we go to like some of the places, even New Haven, where I live now at school, they didn't have an obstacle course for their dogs. The dogs are supposed to be able to jump through windows and do all these things, but they didn't have anywhere to train them. So we pair up with carpenters folks and their apprentices at the schools in that area. And we seek donations for materials, and we've almost always had them covered. And we built, these big obstacle courses for some Indiana, Ohio, Virginia, a couple, somewhere else. Well, I can't remember. Anyway, but we do that too. And really what it comes down to, Andy, for me is that I owe those dogs and I owe the cops. And right now, just like us in the SEAL teams, cops are their own worst enemy. Man, it's funny to talk to the guys that I'm close with. They're like, oh, something will come out on the news. And they're like, man, tomorrow is going to be a shitty day.
Yeah.
Just because that dude went out there and did that, stupid shit. And now I'm that guy,